You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
All right. Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye. Hello, wherever you are around the world. Thank you for joining. This is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us for the preview show as we have an early kickoff on Saturday against a certain informed team at the moment, West Bromwich Albion. If you're watching, please feel free to join in the chat. Remember to keep your comments pleasant and respectable. And if you are listening on your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much for lending me your ears. They do say, don't they, that if you fall off a bike, the best thing you can do is just get straight back on it again. Well, maybe we fell off the bike last night. Wasn't good, was it? We're not going to have to wait long. Saturday morning, 12:30 kickoff. We will be making the short journey across to the Hawthorns. And I'm pleased to say someone with a great name, somebody called Chris, will be joining us in a second from the Albion Analysis podcast. So it'll be nice to have him along. Hope Craig doesn't feel too left out. He has got time to change his name on screen if he wants to. Well, the title may not be over by a long walk. What is over, I think, though, and it's with great sadness. I think we know what the Christmas number one is probably going to be this year. R.I.P. Shane McGowan. The fairy tale is over. Rest in peace, mate. But this is the review show, and welcome along. Good evening, gentlemen. It's almost like I rehearsed that, wasn't it?
Very nice.
You're coming on well.
You? Sorry?
You're coming on well, Chris.
I am. It's only taken 4 years or something, is it, to get to this point? It's a long show. Craig, welcome along. Get much sleep last night?
Well, yeah, I had a peaceful sleep because all the nightmares were a bit earlier in the evening, to be honest. Although I could have easily nodded off like most of our midfield.
Yeah, well, not just midfield at times.
Well,
Even my love child, the Great Dane, had a bad game, in my opinion. Chris too. Hello, welcome along,
mate.
Top of the form tree on the last 6 games.
Yeah. No, we're playing extremely well. The really interesting thing about being top of the form tree, because obviously, it's all well and good having played well for 6 games, but it's what you do over 46 that matters, not what you do over 6. But the really interesting thing is who we've played. To be top of the tree after the last 6 games is incredible, really. We beat QPR, which obviously was not that much of an achievement. It was pretty much the last nail in Gareth Ainsworth's coffin, and they were awful, absolutely awful when we played them. But then we went to Coventry and won 2-0. A Coventry side that since has shown itself to be a very good side that probably its league position is not really truthful of the ability. They've started winning games. They've started turning in performances largely since then. We beat Hull City, who have been one of the form teams of the division. We lost at Southampton, but which is the only blip in that run. And to be honest, we should have won that game. We were the better side, and then we just got sucker punched towards the end. A little bit of sleepy defending from Connor Townsend, or a mistake, I should say. Kind of went for a ball that wasn't his and left Adam Armstrong all on his own. And then beating Ipswich, hadn't lost away from home all season. The division's top scorers, and not only did we beat them, but we kept a clean sheet. We kept them down to 0.2 xG, which is just unbelievable. I mean, they didn't have a shot on target against us, which is the first time in just under 2 years that they haven't had a shot on target against a team in a game, which just goes to show our defensive solidity. And then Cardiff in midweek, another good side, obviously coming off a great result where they'd scored 2 goals in injury time against Preston. It took a world-class goal from Jeremy Sarmiento to win the match, but again, it was all built on defensive solidity. We didn't give them a sniff. Again, only 0.5 xG for them over the course of the 19. Look, if you only create 0.2 or 0.5 xG, the reality is you're not likely to score a goal because you're just not creating a lot of chances. That's what it basically shows. And teams aren't at the moment, touch wood, creating a great deal of chances against us. And when we've got that little bit of X factor, it's been Grady Dean Garner in previous weeks. Before he got injured, it was John Swift. On Tuesday night, it was Jeremy Sarmiento. As long as those players come to the party at some point during the game, because we're so rock solid at the other end, it just gives us a chance to win a match.
I mean, looking at that there, Craig, I mean, our current form, we've dropped down to 10th. I mean, it was a long time. We're used to being up there. How the mighty fallen. But I suppose that kind of sums the league up, doesn't it? Because, we have the prediction league, and Brad is in the chat. He had a good week this week, in fairness to Brad. But I mean, it's like once you get past Leicester and Ipswich, and we have the good start, which I think is keeping us up there. But the teams below that, there's no sort of, it swaps and changes week in, week out. And looking at that there, you can see, West Bromwich Albion go into this game, Craig, as I would say, as favourites to win it.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to all that Chris has just said in terms of stats and the chances that they're giving up, and we might as well just turn the lights out and go home, I think, because, based on what we've been doing, it's going to be a really tough game. I don't think, we were talking briefly before we came on air, and it's not the dropping of points. It's more about the manner of the way that we're dropping points and the manner of the way that we're playing at the minute. We've sort of gone back to this really slow build up with possession for possession's sake, and possession without purpose is pointless. That's if we want to carry on the P's. But last night, possession, at times it was embarrassing. It was like they were being paid on the number of passes, because there were 2 or 3 occasions where they were in the middle of the park, stood 5 yards from each other and passed it back to each other 3 or 4 times. It was embarrassing. It was like, what the hell are you doing? And at the time, we're 1-0 up. It's not like we've won the game and we're just seeing it out. There's something going a little awry for me at the moment, and he needs to put his finger on it and get it sorted.
I wouldn't be overly worried, though, gents. I mean, you can call it now. It's going to be 3-2 to you with a late Jamie Vardy winner as he runs clear of our defence, because that's what always happens when Leicester come to the Hawthorns. It's like, I feel like I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, I mean, if your fans can just give him pelters the whole game, then I'm sure that he'll revel in it and he'll stick at least
I'd love
one
to
in.
say they've learnt from that, Craig, but I don't think they will have. I think that's exactly what will happen. He'll get a load of stick, and then what will we see? We'll see Jamie Vardy cupping his ears at the Birmingham Road end in the 93rd minute or something like that. You just there feels a degree of inevitability about it. Like I say, we've seen this film before.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at that, Craig, the away form for us, 4 wins, a loss and a draw. The home form for West Brom, they haven't lost in the last 6 at home. It's got 0-0 written all over it, possibly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to talk about managers, and I'm going to come to our manager first, because Brad was a little bit annoyed, shall we say, on last night's show when we got to the post-match section. He didn't have a many nice things to say about Enzo. We don't seem to have a plan B, and it wasn't sort of that long ago, as in last season, we were saying exactly the same about his predecessor.
Yeah, if I can sit on the other side of that then, and sadly I'm very much in agreement, but to put a different side to it, I think we are still, let's look at the positive and say we are still learning the Enzo way. And what I think happens is we've spent, probably you could go back into the Brendan era, and all the time that Enzo has been here on keeping possession, that means all you look for is a short pass. You look for a 10-yard pass, and can you get it back? And you don't scan the rest of the pitch quickly enough. And we've got runners, and we could have a go at Cassidy last night, who was pretty much invisible. We could have a go at the wingers. But when they've played, they've made some very good runs. But seem to have got into this habit of looking for a 5-10 yard pass, and that's it. And we don't look beyond it. So I think that is the next phase. It has to be that, okay, there's a pass there, but I've seen that one over there as well, and I'm going to go for that, and it's going to be more progressive. Because at the minute, if they continue just passing it around for the sake of it, the better teams are coming, and the better teams like West Brom are running into form. And, we're not going to get away with it. We should have been a couple down in 2 minutes last night.
Yes, in fairness, we should. The defence was all over the place. Although I do think that once, Yannick does have that decisive pass in him when it's available. I think, going with one of our favourite songs at the moment from the Chelsea is Going Up, Playing Football the Enzo Way. Not after last night, we're not, I'll tell you. But Chris,
I think, just on that, Chris, again, for once last night, we were in the same boat. We were watching it on TV. And you see more of it when you're at the game. You see all those runs being made that the camera doesn't pick up because the camera is focused on, who's got the ball and where his next short pass is going to be. They might as well, once we get the ball, zoom in like they do with the darts, as if someone's going to get a 180 and just see where that next 2-yard pass is going to go, because we don't look beyond it. But when you see the game, there are runs being made, but we're not lifting ahead and seeing it enough. That's the frustration.
Yeah, just on that. I mean, this is something I've heard a lot from our fans over. I mean, it was levelled at Corberan at times last season that the words Plan B a lot of the time get thrown around, and it annoys me a little bit, because how many teams actually completely dramatically change the way they play game on game? They just don't. Yeah, right. Most managers have a way of playing. Okay, you can tweak within that, and Corberan certainly does. I mean, we switch between a 4 at the back, a 5 at the back. We switch personnel around a little bit. Sometimes we play with wing backs. Sometimes we play with standard fullbacks. But I could still sit here and tell you the basic concepts of the way we will play. We will look to play out from the back. We won't go long because we've only got one man up front, and it's not it's not a big sort of hold up player of a striker. We will look to sit off you and hit you on the counter. We will want you to come on to us. We want you to break your shape, and we will want to get in behind you and get down the sides as quickly as we possibly can. And we will want you to come and press our our defenders when they're on the ball so that we can break the shape. And look, I'm not telling you any trade secrets here because we do this every week. I'm sure Enzo Maresca is thoroughly aware of this. So all I would say, and this goes for any club, not because I hear it from all sorts of fans, the words plan B get thrown around without people really knowing what that means. I don't think managers stick to their managers set up to play a certain way, and players get trained to play a certain way, and players get bought to fit a certain system. So you build something to play a certain way, and then as soon as a couple of results go against it, people want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and it's never ever going to happen because it's not going to work. You can't just markedly change the way you play. You can tweak within that, but in the end, the basic concepts of what your team is built to do, that's what they will always do under that manager. And that manager will either fail or succeed based on their own ability to implement that system, the players' ability to understand it, and the quality of the players at their disposal.
I agree. It's not a case for me. It's not a case of having a plan B. It's having the adaptability to make your plan work based on what the opposition is doing in front of you as well. We are set up in the classic fashion of Liverpool when they had Mane and Salah. We have two wide men who hug the touchline until the centre forward drops deep, like Firmino used to do. And then that creates this huge gap in behind the centre halves where your two wide men look to attack it, or a deep lying runner from midfield. And that's what we're set up to do. And that's what our runners are doing. They're not getting the ball. So we're getting caught in this sort of shorthand. And they start getting frustrated. You can see it, particularly with the wingers. Mavididi doesn't, hide anything in terms of how frustrated he is. But it's not having a plan B. It's exploiting the opportunities that have been created by the way that you've set the team up, and that's where the frustration comes in a little bit, because the fans can see those runs being made. The players on the ball seemingly can't.
And then presumably that's less about the manager and more about the individual players on the pitch actually taking responsibility.
It is, and that's what I'm saying about this whole coaching that they're going through at the minute. Seems to be focused on keeping possession and that short, sharp passing, which they're not taking that extra second to just have a look up and see what other options are on. Their first thought is, I need to keep possession, and that's it, rather than taking a little risk now and again. And that's the balance. As soon as you start taking that balance, we've got the players to do it. And you could see us going on a run and scoring a lot of goals. We're in that little interim period at the moment, I think, where teams have worked out what we want to do. So they will now start counteracting it. And then we've got to find a solution to that counteraction.
Just working out here what Brad did put a comment up, and if you saw me sort of squinting at the screen, I was trying to get really close to work out what he'd actually typed, because it didn't make any sense whatsoever. Not that I'm saying Brad never makes any sense, of course. That wouldn't be very nice of me at all. But what he was actually trying to say was he takes some joy from the fact it still pains Craig to have to agree with me, which is true. Look, Carlos Corberan there, Chris, your manager. You've been through a few managers recently. You had Ismail, dare I say you had Steve Bruce, but thank you very much for taking one for the team and meaning just to go to 90 odd other English clubs. So thanks for doing that for a bit. Richard Beale was a short stay. How happy are you with Carlos?
Elated. I mean, look, I went on Talking Town before the Ipswich game last week and upset a few folks claiming that Carlos was the best manager in the division. I'm happy to die on that hill. He is. Kieran McKenna's done a great job at Ipswich Town, and I don't deny that. But he's had £6 million to spend to build that squad in his own image over 2.5 seasons. Carlos Corberan hasn't spent a penny yet in terms of transfer fees. He's had to wheel and deal with a few loans and a few frees here and there, and he's taken a bunch of players who Steve Bruce had on. When he departed the club after I think it was 16 games last season, he had them bottom of the league. We were bottom of the league on the 1st of November last year, and Carlos got us to within one game of the playoffs. We were in the playoffs on the final day until Sunderland started blitzing Preston, and that's incredible. It's an unbelievable achievement. But not only that, he then loses his best defender to Burnley in the summer, Dario O'Shea, and his captain. Let's not forget as well. And he's replaced the replacements that we've made. We let a bunch of players go on freeze as well, and the replacements that we've made are Mowat and Kipre coming back from loan, who were basically seen as done as West Bromwich Albion players. Like they nobody thought they were going to kick a ball for us ever again. They've come back and they've been two of our best players this season. He's gone out and signed Jeremy Sarmiento on loan, who just looks like a real talent. A little bit frustrating at times, and it was funny. I saw Who Scored had put their team of the week up, and I thought there'll be a few Albion fans here having a go and saying, "Why is Jeremy Sarmiento not in there? He scored the best goal of the night." Yeah, he did, but he didn't do a lot else. But that's Jeremy Sarmiento for you. He just, it doesn't really matter. But he can be frustrating, but he's got that ability to just pop up with a bit of something. He's brought in Nathaniel Chalobah on a free, who we all thought was dreadful last season, and he's managing to get a tune out of him. Carl Bartley, there was rumours he was being released on a free. He's been an absolute monster at the back for us. John Swift just was not a player under Steve Bruce. He was being completely and utterly misused by Bruce. Corberan comes in and he becomes our top scorer and one of our most important players. I could go on and on. He's improved practically every player in the squad, and the guy's magnificent. And he's working against this backdrop of a complete and utter mess behind the scenes. We're desperately trying to be sold. The owner, Gauchon Lai, has taken money out of the club. He owes the club £5 million, which he's missed multiple deadlines to pay back. The club is having had to take out a £20 million loan to cover running costs earlier in the year. We've now had to borrow even more money on top of that loan to just see the team through, and we're hoping that's enough money to see us through the season. So with all this mess going on, Corberan just keeps winning games. The fans call him King Carlos, and he absolutely is. He's the best thing about our football club by a mile. There's nobody else in the division would be able to, no other manager would be able to do what Carlos is doing with the backdrop of just mess going on behind the scenes, with all the uncertainty, with every single player up for sale in the summer. So it seemed, we would have considered an offer for anyone because we needed the money that badly. So he didn't even know what players he was going to have. He nearly had his goalkeeper sold from under him before a big game at one point as well. When Luton came in for Alex Palmer, we just didn't know what was going on from day to day, and yet he has carried on. He has worked, and he's turned us into this unbelievable unit. We're not the sexiest team in the league. We're not by any stretch of the imagination, but we are by a million miles the most organised. And what Corberan is doing, and the other thing is, he's creating this wonderful team ethos around the place. It's like he's managed to sort of black out all of the sort of noise going on behind the scenes and just get the players to focus on training. And they're just such a brilliant group. Martin Kelly picked up a horrible injury on loan at Wigan last season, only returned to training last week. And there was a video on the club's socials of the players just lining up and giving him a guard of honour out onto the training pitch. And that doesn't happen if you're not in this together. The lads are just... It's amazing, really, because this is one of the most worrying times as an Albion fan, probably since your manager was sold by us to save the club. So it's almost poetic that we're playing you with Enzo Maresca in charge this weekend, because he saved our club by being sold to Juventus back in 2000. And this is probably the most worrying time we've had since 2000. And some would say it's even more worrying. And yet, on the pitch, we're just going from strength to strength. And it's just unbelievable, because normally what's happening behind the scenes, as you guys have found out, what's happening behind the scenes normally reflects what happens on the pitch. And Corberan just hasn't let it touch the on-pitch stuff, and it's phenomenal.
I think we can take from that. He likes him, Craig.
I think he's quite happy with him.
Yeah. Well, if we got King Carlos, if we got Emperor Enzo, I mean, listening to, sorry, I couldn't resist it, but listening to fair points that Chris was making, Craig, it's almost like, yes, we had a great start, but it's like an albatross now around our necks. You know, I said, like, when we had the first loss to Hull, it was, well, at least thank God we've got that out of the way now. We don't have to go, worry about that happening. Our first loss. It's 3 now, of course. We've got our first draw. We've had some bad games. We're not, coming on and, twinkle toeing our way past every team out there. But like Chris said about Carlos, he came into a team that was in a mess. We'd got relegated. Despite what everybody's saying about us having millions to spend, we sold our 2 best players to raise that money. We decided didn't spend all of that on incomings, and we actually let more players go that were out of contract, and we wanted to sort of send out than we brought in. So he hasn't actually, as much as we're criticizing how things are at the moment, he has done a very good job as well.
He has. I mean, and it seems churlish, doesn't it, to criticise when we're sitting at the top of the table with a decent gap back.
That's Leicester fans for you, isn't it? Though
it is, and again, we're ahead of where we all expected to be. No one had really any expectations of the manager because we didn't really know what he could do or not. And the fact that he managed to get in so early, and start working with the players, we had a really good start. What I would say, I assume Scott's talking about our players there. I think what it's showing up is the sort of limitations of the squad. We probably have got the best squad in the division, alongside maybe Leeds and Southampton, I would say. But you would expect that from teams that have come down. What we're probably seeing at the minute is that those squad players are not quite at the same level as our first team regulars, and he's having to rotate it because we're getting used to playing the number of games that we're having to play. We've not been used to this for a long time. If you're down in the Championship, again, it sounds like these are excuses, but I'm just looking at some reasons that might be coming around for why we're looking a little bit tired now and again, and we're having to rotate players a little bit to try and keep them fresh for the bigger games. And he's obviously looked yesterday at the South Chef Wednesday and thought, I can get away with making a few changes because I know we've got a really big game coming up at the weekend with West Brom. So I think overall he's done a really great job, to be honest. He's brought players back in from the cold. You talked about some of yours, Chris, at West Brom. Vestergaard was done with us. He was done with 90% of the fans as well, I think, if not more. And other players who weren't turning up, shall we say, for Brendan. And he's got us. What we have got is an identity. I don't think we had an identity under Rodgers. We did have it, sort of got lost and a little bit muddy. We've clearly got an identity. It's still in its early. I mean, we're 3 months into a season, 3 months into a manager's reign, and we're at the top of the table, clear from third. So we can't be overly critical. I think we've set those high. That's such a high bar that any time that we drop, we're going to get a little bit nervous. But it is a long season, and we will have highs and lows. There's no way, as you said, Chris. And to be fair, the manager said that from the off. There are going to be periods where we're going to lose games, and it's how you react to it that matters.
It's interesting you say about the amount. Sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting you say about the amount of games that, and everything. I think people underestimate because they see players as robots a lot of the time. How much of an impact that can take. I used to work at West Bromwich Albion in the communications team, and I remember having this conversation with Gareth McCauley, who obviously came to us towards the end of his career. I think he was 30 or 31. Yeah, one of your ex-players as well. He came to us about 30 or 31, and I think a lot of people were like, "Why are we signing? Why are we signing this guy? He just had a season for Ipswich, and he hadn't had a particularly great season or anything like that." And they were like, "Why are we signing this guy?" And he came in and he just completely reinvigorated himself. And I remember having a conversation with him about how, and he said, well, it really helps playing in the Premier League. He said, because I've been used to playing 2 games a week. He said, now I can play 1 game, I can recover, I can rest properly. You know, I the tactical stuff as well. There's time to do tactics in the week. And he's like, you don't get any chance to do any of that in the Championship. He's like, you play on the Saturday, and then it's like you might have a day off or come in for a warm down, and then you'll probably get like 1 day of shape on the Monday, and then you're playing again on the Tuesday. And I think it's all right for players whose bodies are used to that and have played a lot of Championship football and are used to kind of just. And this is another reason why the whole Plan B argument goes out the window, because when you're supposed to implement a Plan B in the Championship, like you don't have any time to actually work with the players. Especially when, as you guys have got, a lot of internationals go away in the international break, so you can't even work with them then. It's such a difficult league in terms of actually being able to tactically work on anything during the season, in terms of players' bodies. And the big challenge for yourself, Leeds and Southampton, is that all of you have obviously spent a fair while in the Premier League. You know, none of you are yo-yo teams. So you've come down with a lot of players who can't claim to be Championship footballers. They're Premier League footballers. They're used to playing 1 game a week, and their bodies, more importantly, are used to playing 1 game a week. And it's a shock to the system to then go and say, actually, you know how you normally play 90 minutes in a 7-day period? Well, I need you to play 180 minutes. And that's a lot. That's a massive difference.
I'm just going back to what you were saying, excuse me, before, Craig, about, we have dropped down a division. And if anybody doesn't follow Leicester City on the BBC, if you do get over there now, there's a fantastic new article every Tuesday. It's called Fans Voice. It's not a match report. It's nothing about it's about players and about general feelings at the club. Do get over there and check it out. I believe the guy that writes it is absolutely amazing.
Have you stopped doing it then, Chris?
I have, yeah, for a while. But I'll put there. Do you think there's a bit of a feeling around sort of the Leicester fans and the club that we've dropped down a division? Do you remember we went down to League One?
Yeah,
unfortunately. But we won. We only lost 4 games all season. We've lost 3 already. This isn't League One. This is a completely different kettle of fish. And as I've put there, I mean, if we were to go up this year, that's to me what we want. Winning it would be a bonus. But if we do win it, we actually win more titles than Manchester City. Second tier ones, I grant you. But look, we'll take anything. But to me, and I did put this at the end, it's just great to be winning games again, because we haven't done that for a whole season.
It is. I mean, it's and that's why I think the fans have loved it early on, that we've just started winning games, and then when we stop, it's almost like a reminder of what we went through the last 18 months with Brendan. So we've almost been given this sort of, fantastic sweet to suck on, and then it's been taken off us, and you've got to go back to being actually in games where you've got to work hard to win them. But we know, I mean, we all knew that it was going to be a tough season. Or I say we all know. Don't forget, we've got a lot of fans of this club now, and a lot of vociferous fans who have not only grown up with Leicester being in the Premier League and winning stuff, but also have grown up with social media. And those two things together can make it very toxic and seem a lot worse than it is.
You are not saying, are you, that you could say that some of our fans are like Manchester United fans? I mean, I can't imagine you saying that at all.
Well, I can't, because we've won quite a bit recently.
Yeah.
But it's a fair point. We've had the same thing. We came down from the Premier League, and we'd had so many. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was 8 or 9 consecutive seasons in the Premier League. Every time we'd come down since I think it was 2003, we'd either the maximum we'd spent in the in the Championship was 1 season, and 2 seasons was the most we'd spent. We'd never finished below 6th in the Championship in 20 years when we came down, and then finished. I think it was 11th under Ishmael / Bruce, and people acted like it was this unbelievable, horrendous, end of the world type scenario, and it's like. I look, when I'm obviously a lot older than some of our fans. I'm 40 years old, and the first 18 years of my life,
child, isn't he?
Yeah, quite. I mean, but yeah, the first 8. Yeah, but I would have been happy to be older because I'd have seen a better West Bromwich Albion side in the 80s. But the first 18 years of my life were confined to the second and third tiers of English football. Like, I think people need to remember that football is cyclical, and unless you are Liverpool, Manchester United, you basically aren't guaranteed anything out of life. Some teams will get better, some teams will get worse, and teams like Leicester and Albion and a few others as well are big enough to bother the Premier League, but then also small enough to slip back down into the second tier of English football, and we will have peaks and troughs. We will have a period in the top flight, and then we will come back down. But we will also be down there, safe in the knowledge that at some point we will get back up. Because, with the due respect, we're not somebody like Rochdale who spent 1 season in the last sort of 60 outside of the bottom tier of English football. We even when we go down, we're sort of secure in the knowledge that sooner or later we will come back. And I think what's happening behind the scenes at the Albion has put things into perspective for a lot of Albion fans, that actually you need to stop worrying quite so much about what happens on the pitch and enjoy the ride when you end up in a situation where the actual existence of your football club is threatened, which is genuinely the situation that we're in now. We've got, we've borrowed against the stadium and the training ground. The Hawthorns has been our home for over 100 years, and we could not have it if we don't repay this loan. And it just puts everything into perspective, because football is cyclical. It's peaks and troughs. The important thing is that we don't have more clubs going like Bury and other teams like that, where these fans simply are left without a football club to support. That teams don't end up like Coventry, not owning their own stadium for years and years and years, because it puts you into such a difficult position when you do that. These are the things that really matter. The peaks and troughs on the pitch, they'll come and go. And I think, you're right in saying the social media generation do need to calm down just a little bit and stop treating every loss like the end of the world, and stop demanding constant success just because you've had a little bit of it, and thinking that that's the norm.
If we had the social media brigade, we wouldn't be here, would we? That's the only thing.
I'm not having a go at social media, but it is a hive of people demanding constant success and acting like any defeat is the worst thing to ever happen. And as I say, when the existence of your football club is threatened, it puts
and we've been there, haven't we, Craig? We didn't own our stadium for a while. We went, it was when we went out of business, went into administration, that was why they introduced the 9 points being docked if any club does, that we were the last ones to get away with it, much to Neil Warnock's chagrin, as they say. But yeah, our stadium, I know, as much as we're moaning now, we have, like you say, exactly, we have seen darker days. But football fans are fickle, and they've got short memories, if you say two things about football fans. But look, that's your season there, Chris. I mean, all right, take the first couple of games out the window, because they're not really worth, looking at for any team table at that point. But you're heading in the right direction. What do you think this team, as things stand, can achieve this season?
I mean, it's a difficult question. I mean, you're right. You do need to take the first couple of games out of the equation with us because, as I say, up until September the 1st, pretty much every player was up for sale. I don't mean that in the sense that we'd slap priced. We were shoving them in a bargain bucket and trying to give them away. In fact, in the end, we did absolutely the opposite. We didn't sell any of them because the offers that came in were so derisory. But I think with some clubs, there's players where you say it would take an unreal offer to buy them. I think the reality with us in the summer was if our valuation of any player had been met, they would have gone because we needed the money that much. And that made the first few games really difficult because you had players who didn't know where their future lay and possibly could have messed with their heads a little bit. You had Corberan not knowing who he could work with because he didn't know who was going to be there come the 1st of September. And it definitely affected our form in the early weeks of the season. But there was the big turning point for us was Huddersfield at home. We lost 2-1 in the last minute. It got absolutely Neil Warnocked. It was a game that we could have won, but we lost it trying to win it. We had a shot right at the end, which Majasi saved, and they break upfield and win the game 2-1. And at that point, we had conceded 2 goals in every single match except for the Leeds away game, which we drew 1-1. And Corberan came out after the match and said, "This is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. If we keep conceding 2 goals a game, we are not going to win many matches at all." And after that, he went back to the drawing board. We drew 0-0 with Bristol City. You need to take the Watford game out of it because it was just the most ridiculous weather and it was 2-2, but largely down to the weather rather than anything else. And then we drew 0-0 with Millwall as well. And fans were moaning and groaning and grumbling and saying, "This is boring, this is awful," all these sorts of things. But he was working from the back forwards. He was just getting us solid at the back again. Those 2 0-0s set the basis for our season. And after that, we went to Preston and won 4-0. No team had won there all season, and we didn't just win; we blitzed them. They were absolutely destroyed by us. And we've gone from strength to strength since then. Really, to be honest with you, in terms of what's our ceiling for this season, I don't know, because it just depends where our finances are at going into January. If we have to sell players, then you could see a serious drop off. I mean, you saw this from Hull a few years ago, where they were in the playoffs. They sold Bowen and Krasicki in the January window, and they got relegated at the end of the season. So if we have to sell some of our better players in January, then I don't know is the simple answer. Working in a hypothetical scenario where we keep all our players, we keep our manager, and we are a relatively small squad, so as long as we don't get insane injuries, and we have had some insane injury lists, as most clubs did after the World Cup. But I think the sky's the limit for this squad because we're well organised. We've got a bit of an X factor in it. We don't let many goals in. We don't give many chances away. And I think I don't fear anybody in this division. Look, I've got a lot of respect for you guys. I've got a lot of respect for Leicester. I think you're an unbelievably good side. And I completely agree with the point you made earlier in the show. You are the best squad in the division. Comfortably for me. Probably you and Leeds are comfortably the 2 best squads in the division. But I'm not intimidated going into Saturday's game. I think we will set up to frustrate you. We will invite you onto us. And if when we break, you're not ready for us, I think we could hurt you. And I think if we, I'll say exactly the same as I said to the Talking Town guys last week. If we score the first goal, you're in all sorts of trouble because we shut games down like nobody else in this division. We're a nightmare. It's like trying to break through a brick wall. It's incredible. So I think we could go a long, long way, but it's just such a huge if with the finances.
Normally, at this part
we can keep the players.
Normally, at this part of the show, we ask about sort of opposition players, but I want to quickly move on. And there was something much more important than West Bromwich Albion players that I think that we need to know about. And is this guy still on the side of the pitch? That's what we want to know, because if he is, I'm going to try and get a ticket just to come along and laugh at him.
Boilerman's there. Don't you worry. He's not going anywhere. Do you know what as well? Apologies for any kids in the audience. This is like I don't want to shatter any illusions you have, but there is a bloke inside of that suit, and I've played football with him quite a few times, and he's actually an absolute player. To be fair to him, but yeah, Boilerman's still around. Just to be, there is a little bit of a misnomer. He's not the club mascot. Ideal Boilers are on the shirt, and he's their mascot. But yeah, he's been much enjoyed by many around the country. And as I say, Joey, who's in the suit, is an absolutely diamond bloke. And he's as I say, he can play a little bit as well. I'll get absolutely battered on the on the WhatsApp group if any of the lads are watching that for bigging Joey's footballing ability up. But so I look forward to getting destroyed on WhatsApp later on. But yeah, he's don't worry, Boilerman is still there, and you can absolutely have your picture with him. So don't you worry about that, as many do.
Just a quick one, Chris, before you move on. Sorry, I don't want to put you back too much. Just talking about your the ceiling of where you can go, Chris. Are you likely to lose many to the African Cup of Nations?
Yeah, we'll lose a couple. Semi Ajayi will go with Nigeria, and irritatingly, I'm sure not for him, because I'm sure part of me is delighted for him, but Democratic Republic of Congo have discovered that Grady Dingana qualifies for them, because he wasn't even a Congo international until I think it was the October international break, and then obviously somebody's done their research somewhere down the line and found that Grady qualifies for them. So they got him in quickly, capped him, and he's now going to be in their African Cup of Nations squad. So yeah, we'll lose two big players, which might not seem like a lot from the outside looking in, but as I say, we're a small squad. No disrespect to Semi, but he doesn't start regularly, so he's less of a loss than Grady. But nonetheless, he is our backup centre half, and centre halves do get injured. But they're also far more likely to get suspended at somewhere down the line, and so to lose him is a blow. But losing Grady is just massive, because he's been back to the best. He's back to the player to some degree that we saw in the promotion season under Bilic when we had him on loan, and he was unbelievable, which prompted us to pay 18 million for the guy, and he's been fantastic. So it's a little bit frustrating, and it's also probably one that we didn't necessarily plan for, because like I say, in the summer, because he wasn't a Congo international until October, and then, as I say, somebody somewhere has found his parentage, and now we're going to lose him for a month.
I'm going to just appreciate that, and thanks for the question, Craig. Just before I let you go, then, Chris, just for away fans there, parking and pubs, is there plenty of both for away fans?
To be honest, I don't really know where the away fans drink. We've got draft in the ground now, which is a nice step up from the cans that we've been serving for years. It's actually it is a lot nicer to be fair. Parking, we're a bit of a nightmare because we're straight off the M5. I mean, the big thing that I would say is get there early, because the M5 gets absolutely. If you're coming in through the motorway, it's going to get clogged up. It's going to be absolutely horrible. There is definitely an argument to say that possibly you sort of hop off and come up the A38 and avoid it altogether. But yeah, it can be an absolute car park. So. There's not really anything like directly around the ground. We've got McDonald's across the road if that's your thing, but there's
Nothing wrong with a good McDonald's.
Yeah, there's not a lot around the ground because the ground is right in the middle of it's on a road where there's a load of industrial parks and stuff like that. There's parking around there, but it'll cost you a little bit. But there won't really be anywhere to drink. You're going to have to go back across the motorway island up the high street, and there is a few places up there.
Right. Chris, it's been great having you on. Thank you very much for coming on. So much better than last week's guest. Great.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
He didn't turn up.
Well, yes. If I couldn't top that, then it'd be a bit upsetting.
But your link for both your Twitter and your podcast is in the description below on YouTube. But just give everybody a shout out as to where they can follow you, and if they want to give you abuse after we beat you on Saturday, where to go.
Yeah, feel free. Abuse always welcomed. At Albion Analysis is the pod account. Obviously, the pod itself is Albion Analysis. It might not be of interest to a few of your listeners, most of our pods, but there are a few specials there with ex players who talk quite broadly about their career. So maybe worth just checking them out if you do fancy a bit of that, because they talk more broadly about it. And if you want to drop me a follow, feel free at CJ Hall 83. And as I say, give me abuse and tell me how absolutely wrong I called it after the final whistle goes on Saturday afternoon.
You've done that a lot this season. I would wish you all the best for Saturday. Obviously, I wouldn't mean it, but I do wish you all the best for the rest of the season. And we'll have to get together for the return match when you come up to the KP.
Absolutely, and look, as you say, I don't wish you all the best for Saturday, but I do for the whole season. Not least because Enzo Maresca was a hero of mine growing up. He was a truly, truly wonderful footballer, and the type how we had him in the Championship or whatever, Division 1, whatever it was called in those days. I will never know. So, for as long as he's your manager, I will always have one eye on Leicester, and I'll always want Enzo to do well, because, as I say, he was not only did he give me a lot of entertainment, but by generating so much money when he went to Juventus, he basically saved the football club. So, many thanks to him for that.
All the best, mate, and we'll speak to you later in the season.
You shall indeed. Cheers, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So it is West Brom, and I was just time to go off and say Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Normally I'd include him for score predictions, but I don't think there's anybody. I never realised that Brad, very lovely guy, don't get me wrong, lovely guy, but I never realised Brad had a Brummy cousin.
Yeah, you were getting a full answer. I think he's probably had to go off because he's on question time later, I think.
Well, he did mess with how long's the show on for? Went about 40 minutes, and maybe I should have said 2 hours and 40. But no, look,
some good insights as well, though.
He has. No. He let's face it, like I say, he turned up, which is a good start, and I appreciate that, and we will have him back on. But I apologise because you were being left out a little bit there, but that's not a lot. Every time I thought there's a breathing space. But no, thanks to Chris for coming on. Really, really do appreciate it. And to be honest with you, I have nothing against West Brom. If only because I love Boilerman. Who doesn't love Boilerman? What would ours be? We wouldn't really have an equivalent, would we?
No, we'd have some
duty free, I guess. But
we basically should have some over made up middle-aged woman walking around the ground spraying you with perfume.
This is true. I like that one. I do like that one. Right, I've forgotten where I am now because we're going to have to go I'm going to have to go back to go forward. But look, we've had a moan, and it wasn't the best game, and I think we've set ourselves very high standards at the start, and that was always going to be hard. And I don't think that they say this isn't League One. This is a lot harder division, and very all right. You always saw Norwich and Watford that used to come back up, but they've not been they've not managed it. They didn't manage it last season. But look, we still top. We would have taken that table if you'd given us that at the start of the season, said, here's where you'll be after 18 games.
Of course we would. And let's not forget, Leeds and Ipswich both drew at Rotherham over the past couple of weeks as well, where we went and won. So you are going to have anomalies. You are going to have dodgy results now and again. I think it was the manner of the performance, as I said before, which was which was disappointing. If we'd have gone at it, we'd been crashing the woodwork, the keeper had a blinder and they'd scored in the last minute, you'd be annoyed, but you could say, well, we couldn't do any more.
Yeah,
I think you watched that game last night and you thought we could have done a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. Probably one of our worst performances of the whole season.
Definitely. I do like when Maresca tends to see it the way we do as well, because he did come out and say, I read today, that we made some bad decisions. On the ball, we made some poor decisions. And it's a matter of just learning from those and not doing it again. And at the end of it, possession is great, but if it's going to put you in trouble, that goal all came from us trying to play out in our own corner after 90 minutes, when we could have easily just gone up, booted it away, regrouped and got back solid again. But it's that. And I put something on yesterday. We don't want to get to a point where we're arrogant, and there's a thin line between confidence and arrogance.
Yes.
And I think yesterday we slipped over the line into the arrogant and thought we could just play our way out of everything. And it doesn't matter where you are in the table. They're professional footballers that you're playing against, not a bunch of kids. So you've got to give them the respect that they deserve as well. And I don't think we did that.
We have got to admit, a point that that Chris made, I think twice or three times, but he made the point that, new manager coming in, didn't know what players he was going to be using. We were in that same position, new manager, let's be honest, untried, and, as a manager in his own right, 12 games literally at an Italian club, lots of new players coming in, a new style to adapt. And the headline today on one of, as reliable as it is, Leicestershire Live stories, Leicester City style won't change for anything under Enzo Maresca. And that's coming from Wes Morgan. And congratulations to Wes Morgan on his new job, by the way. Well done to him for that. But, it's a good point. And Brad, very... Brad, if you are still watching, by the way, my video from last night came up on YouTube as unsuitable for all advertisers. And I think that might have had something to do with your 25 swear words in 20 seconds rant about Enzo. But it is still a project in development. Luca's in here and he'll laugh at me for saying this because we used to wind him up about it couple of seasons ago. Trust the process, Luca. But good evening, Luca. How are you? Welcome along. We've got to kind of learn from that, haven't we? Yeah,
I'm going to say the manager isn't going to change the way he wants to play football. The players will change, but as long as he's at the club, we'll play the same way. And if a new player came into the club, you'd probably say, you'd give them 3 months or whatever to see what they're made of. It's like we don't do that with managers. We don't give them that time. What we've got, if you looked at Enzo as a player, he's come into the team, he's absolutely smashed it for the first 3 months, and now he's had a little bit of a wobble. And but you expect that from players. I don't know why we expect something different from managers who have got a lot more on the plate and a lot more things to deal with. So Enzo's got to have to find a solution. Great managers are not great managers from day one. No. They're great managers because they've had experience and they've learned from setbacks. And that's what Enzo will be doing.
Alex Ferguson, very, very close to being sacked before we all know whatever happened to him. But a point that you made there, and I hope you're all right for time. Let me know if you're not, by the way. You said about we give players time, right? And yet, you think you said earlier, and I'm not saying that you weren't wrong to say it, but you said like Cashiday was virtually, anonymous yesterday. And 18 games into his Leicester career, and he's not played all of those. Everybody else seems to have just sort of come in and clicked, but have we been quite lucky with that? Because
probably. What I would say is that we you seem to have.
No, I should be back now. Sorry.
Yeah. What I was saying that is almost the analogy of a player coming in and hitting the ground running, and then he's allowed a little bit of a wobble after playing great, and Enzo's at that point now. But Cassidy has been a little bit disappointing. But I was thinking about this before we came on air, that I think his teammates have to take a little bit of blame for that. It's difficult for a young player of his age to come and take a game by the scruff of the neck. What he is doing, he's making a lot of runs and not getting the ball, and that is very frustrating. So, I think there's a lot of blame that we're not seeing the best of him because we're not playing to his strengths as well. He has been disappointed. I'm not gonna whitewash that. He has been disappointed in a couple of games. He had that couple of games where Sunderland he was fantastic. He was right in the middle of it, but he was getting on the ball and he was driving forward with the ball and making things happen. What I hope isn't happening is that he's been told not to do that, and he's been told to get the ball and then move it on quick, because I don't think we will see the best of him at that point. Dewsbury Hall is allowed to get the ball and drive forward, and I'd like to see that kind of thing from Cassidy. And I think with him and the other guy who played, I've just forgotten his name last night, Eunice.
Yeah,
I think you can get away with playing one of them alongside someone who's a bit more experienced. I'm not sure you can play both of them and expect that your midfield will click and play to the same levels as it did. And again, that's maybe something that Maresca has learned.
The defence, I totally agree. The defence last night looked awful. I mean, 22 seconds, we could have been 1-0 down. And it wasn't just one play. Ricardo was giving the ball away. Faze, I know he was your man of the match the other day, but I don't think he had a brilliant game.
No.
But I think he was played out of position.
He doesn't look comfortable on the left, that's for sure.
No.
He's a right-footed player who likes to run with the ball when he gets an opportunity. And,
but again, are we then needing to question Maresca? And I'm saying, I'm saying like, okay, bring Cody in, give somebody a rest. But, we've got 3 games in a week. That's the league. We've got to live with it. Justin is young enough. You didn't have to rest Justin. He's the youngest of all the defenders, I think. So, why are you not playing our only player really, apart from Doyle, who's obviously injured, the only player that can really play on the left of defence that we've still got? Why is he being rested and you're moving Faze across to that side? He went off injured, but I thought the defence looked a little bit better when Justin came on.
No, I agree. It was more balanced. If you wanted to, I can understand him wanting to give Cody minutes. I can understand that. But for me, you just switch him with Farce, and you give Farce a rest, but you keep your fullbacks are really important. It should be like a lot of people will think, oh, they're all defenders. You're not. You're a central defender or you're a fullback. They're very different things. And when you force a central defender to play, not only to play as a fullback, but to play on the wrong side as well, you're not going to get the same level of performance. The only thing I can think of was that he was a little bit worried about how physical Chef Wednesday were, particularly at set pieces and the like. And he was thinking that was going to be their most dangerous way. So he was going to play fast from that point of view. But otherwise, it didn't work. And hopefully, again, I just hope from all of these games, he is learning something, and I'm sure he is.
Yeah. Brad's asking there, do we have a recall option on Thomas, or do we have to buy a backup left back in January? I don't know if Thomas coming back is the option. I don't think he's a sort of player that fits into Enzo's sort of style, is he?
He's, from the little bits I've seen, he's having a torrid time over at Sheffield United, that's for sure, and he's being dragged all over the place, and I don't think that is benefiting anyone at the minute. That
I
loan.
said that a few weeks ago. Is his confidence being shot to pieces?
But I don't know if that sounds. I don't know how far Doyle is away from coming back. Whether he'll be back in the January. If he's back in January, then I think that's fine. I think we've got other areas to be looking at in January, particularly with the African Cup of Nations and players going away. So I think that'll be lower down on his list of priorities.
And I think Doyle, you may have said this, we all froze then for a bit, but Doyle, I think, is due back, isn't he? Sort of early New Year.
Yeah.
I hope this isn't true, because Scott said here, is Marquesa making the point by showing they only trust certain players in positions? I hope not, because we're then back to, Brendan number 2, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Scott. Is there specific players that you're talking about there? I don't know. I think he's trying to give players minutes, but without disrupting it too much. And as I say, potentially with who he was playing yesterday, he wanted a more physical presence than JJ sometimes gives. So that may have been the reasoning for it, but it didn't work at all. And because, I think it's really important as well. And obviously I'm not telling Enzo his job, but if your right fullback, in this case, Ricardo, is the one who is stepping into midfield, then the person playing right centre half needs to know how to cover that. Yeah. And Farce has been doing it all season. Yes. So, switching them over to the left sort of didn't work on 2 levels for me. So again, a solid back 4, and we'll always come back to it. The year we won the league, that back 4 was solid. Players weren't rested. I know we've got more games now, so people will need a little bit of a rest. But if you've got a solid foundation where everybody knows their job, everybody knows how to cover each other, then that sets you up in good stead. And I think we lost it yesterday with players being played out of position.
I think as well for me, we always used to do a post-match separate from the main watch-along. Now, and it seems to work better, you have the sort of the pre-match, the watch-along, and the post-match all rolled into one show, and occasionally do a review. Sorry. I often feel a lot calmer sort of the day after doing that reaction straight after a game, but then you do get the emotions, if you like.
Yeah.
Yes, it was bloody awful. It was probably the worst performance we put in. Yes, we couldn't tell who was top and who was bottom. And we have struggled against, funnily enough, we only just beat QPR. We only just beat Rotherham. And we only managed to draw with Sheffield Wednesday. All 3 of those clubs are in the bottom 3, but that's Leicester. I said before kickoff, it was a potential banana skin, not because of form, but because it's Leicester. And we know what Leicester's like. And look, 18 played and 14 wins. I'm sorry, when you've taken your post-match, anger away and put it in the bin, it's bloody good.
It is. I mean, it's fantastic, and we'd have all taken it at the start of the season. I think the other thing is those bottom teams, it's a free swing. It's often used. They've got absolutely nothing to lose by giving a good go against us. And that as professional footballers, they're going to want to go and put on a show.
Yeah.
They're not technically better than us. They know that. So they're going to go and give us a physical game and try and ruffle us and press us and make it as uncomfortable as they can for us, because sadly, that's what the teams at the bottom of the table have. That's all they have. They can't outplay you, so they have to outmuscle you. And clearly, that's what we're struggling against at the minute. Teams that want to put us under a high press. We suffered against Sunderland, and we did well to win that game, to be honest, because they did the same. We lost to Leeds when they did that as well. So what we're finding is we're in that sort of second phase of the season now where teams have worked us out. They know what we want to do. They're going to try and stifle that. They're going to try and press us hard, and it's up to us over this next period of the season to try and find a solution to it.
Yeah. And like I say, not only is it a new team, it's a new manager. And I know at the start of the season, I said if it means we go up next season stronger, I'm quite happy to finish 7th or 8th this season.
Mm-hmm.
And now that would seem like, a disaster.
It would be. It would be.
We're not going to get relegated.
If we were not in the playoffs, they would be calling for his head.
Yes, we would. Right, score predictions. Okay, I've just said then, so we're not going to get relegated. Let's not forget then. Now, let's take some positives out. I am worried. I'm going to be honest with you. Having seen that performance, and where we would be without that good start that we had. Mm-hmm. In fairness, we probably would be sort of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. We'd be around that. So we'd be around where pretty much expected to be. Yep. It's the early kickoff for TV, and I think they've chosen a good game for that, as it happens, because they are top of the form table. We are, top of the league. So it is a cracker, as they say. But I am worried about this. I'm going to let you go first with your prediction because I can copy it then but I'm going to write mine down just so you know I'm not cheating. So what are you going to go for?
You basically filled that pad with lots of different scores, haven't you?
Yes, I'm trying to pass it off as my prediction league things, and it's all Leicester's options.
In the Championship, I can't go for us to lose at any point, but it would not surprise me, let's put it that way, if we got beaten, because they are playing really well and we're not. But I'm going to go for a Desmond 2-2. That's what you've written down, isn't it, Chris? Yeah,
right.
Chris, yeah.
Just out of... I don't know if you can see that there.
Yeah.
2-2. I can't believe that. But no, I think all right, we've got that thing that we haven't drawn a game yet. That albatross is round off our neck now. But yeah, I'm not going to say I would take a draw at this point. As you know, that's one of my usual favourite questions. But I think it's going to be a tough one. As bad as I am doing at the moment, and I know Brad's had a good week, but he's really lost it. I know he was upset the other day, but he's gone 2-0 to West Bromwich Albion. Whoa, Brad, how can you, sir? But then again, Scott says, I think you're being kind. I see us getting a thumping 4-1 defeat, Scott. Wow.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know really what to say to that. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll have a very quick break, and then we've just got a couple of things, if you're still okay for time. We're going to have a look at somebody that's in both camps, and we're going to have a look at a past game, which was a very enjoyable game for us both.
The TalkSport Fan Network is the ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts,
including Leicester Till I Die, independent analysis and reaction for the Foxes faithful.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Follow the podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.
So, there's been quite a few players that have played for both of us. Enzo I hadn't even thought about, to be honest with you. Gareth McCauley, Johnny Evans.
Yeah.
And there's a few that I went with yesterday, but the one that I've gone for, and knowing that you were going to be on this show with me, I could not go for this, and I really, really wish that Chris had still been here to give his version of this player when he was at West Brom, because I think it might be different to your thoughts on him at Leicester, but we would have been here till midnight. But the one that I have gone for is your favourite player when he was at the club, and a certain Mr. Harvey Barnes.
Yeah. Harvey Barnes.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, he did. I mean, I can't knock him overall for his career at Leicester, because most of my frustrations came from the fact that we all knew that he could have been so much better than he showed in that last 18 months of his career here. And West Brom was the start for him. It gave him that. It just shows how important the loan system is.
Yes.
If you're going to go to a team that are going to play to your strengths and are going to improve you. And that's what happened while he was away at West Brom. And he came back and he just never really fulfilled all the potential, which seems strange when you look at the number of goals that he did score and the number of goal involvements. When his career is finished and you just look down Wikipedia at his stats, they're going to look pretty decent, to be honest. And it's just that frustration that his career seemed to have stalled the past 18 months. And that's when the frustration with him crept in, because he seemed a little bit one-dimensional. But I think he's a player who will play better with better players around him.
Also,
and he's at a club that's probably on the up now, and he's going to get that chance, I think. However, Anthony Gordon is playing so well at the minute that even when he comes back from fitness, he's going to struggle to get back in that team.
Oh, yes, indeed. I mean, do you think he struggled at Leicester at the end? I mean, when we brought him back, I honestly think he probably saved Prell's job that first time. It was Prell that brought him back early from his loan, if I remember rightly. I think he probably saved Prell at that point from getting the push. But the fact that he was virtually the only winger in the club.
He was.
There's a lot of pressure on him where, when we look at the stats now, we're attacking down both sides, where a lot of the time under Rodgers, it was literally attacking down one side all the time, because that's where Harvey Barnes was.
Yeah, and he scored a lot of fantastic goals. You know, even right up to the end of the season, there was one, I think, where there was a long ball played over the top that he took with the outside of his right foot, beat a fullback, then cut inside and curled it in. He was capable of magical stuff. It's just the other parts of his game, and we probably got a little bit greedy that we wanted him to be great at everything. And I remember sticking up for one of my favourite players from years ago, who you could probably say was similar in many ways to Harvey without the goal returns, although he did get the assist, Steve Guppy. And I used to love Steve Guppy.
Yeah.
But a lot of fans I remember were saying that he never got stuck in or he never tracked back. He was terrible in the tackle. But then you look at defenders and you don't expect them to go past a fullback and sling in a pinpoint cross. But we seem to expect our wingers to be able to do defenders' jobs as well. So I used to defend Steve Guppy from that point. So I was probably a little over harsh on Harvey Barnes. But at the time, we needed everybody to be putting in a shift week in, week out. And it didn't seem like...
Could you just say that again? You were a little over harsh on Harvey Barnes. That has got to be the understatement of the year. In fact, I sat here and I was worried, and I put it up there because I thought you were going to go absolutely against him.
No. That would be silly because, as I say, he scored some amazing goals, and overall he will be looked back on as a really good player. Not a great, but a really good player for Leicester City. It's just when we needed a bit more from him, it wasn't there.
Yeah,
but I think he was alone in that. There were 3 or 4 players in those teams the last 18 months that you wanted a bit more from, and they didn't deliver.
Yes. Right, we're going to look now at From the Vault, I've renamed it, as we look back at a past match between the two teams. And sorry?
I like that name. Well done.
Yeah, no, thank you. I should have been in advertising, shouldn't I? And we've gone back to a match that basically changed our club, I think, in a way. But we must also remember, and I did this because, again, I thought that the West Brom fan may well have still been with us, because it was I pressed the wrong button. There we go. It was a match that was named Jeff Astle Day, and we should show respect to the guy. No longer with us. So, R.I.P. Jeff. One of those names that, certainly our age generation, probably not the youngsters, but our age remember him well, even though he obviously didn't play for us. A 2-3 win for Leicester that really kick-started the... I think this was where would you say this was where the Great Escape started, I mean?
Well, I think the game before was the one where we got a fairly late winner against West Ham, Andy King at home. But I think that could have been a one-off if we hadn't have then gone and backed it up with an away win. And I think that was really important. So we got back-to-back wins, and then we just kicked on. And I think we only lost one more game for the rest of the season. That was against Chelsea. So I think it was really important to show that we could go away from home and get a result. And it was 6 points out of 6. And it gave us that momentum, I think, to take it forward. So I think this was a pivotal game, even though a point at the time would have been decent. To get that win with that late goal from Jamie Vardy. And if I remember rightly, it was a fantastic goal where he got the ball on the left wing and just outpaced everybody and cut inside and smacked it into the far corner. And I think, yes, in following on from the West Ham game, I think this was really important and pivotal in the fact that it gave us that confidence and momentum, looking at the games that were coming up for the rest of the season, that we could go away to these teams and get the points that we needed.
No, I would agree. When it started off, typical Leicester, we went 1-0 down. Then Nugent kind of bundled the ball over the line, really, didn't he? The equaliser. Didn't last long, though. Gardner put them back 2-3 up. This obviously was at the Hawthorns. I don't remember Huth's goal.
I can't remember whose goal. I'm guessing it was a header. But,
I think it was. I'm trying to remember. I'm sure I'll come up with it. I'm trying to remember. I think it was from a corner. It might have been from a corner. And he sort of went up for it, and it was surprising. And Vardy, I can remember watching it as clear as anything. And Vardy got the ball. I think it was in our own half, just inside.
On the left wing, wasn't it?
On the left wing.
Yeah.
And he ran. And I'm not sure which player it was, probably Mahrez, but there was a player that was free on the right as he ran. And because he went past two, and I thought, well, he's either going to have a shot or he's going to go down for a penalty. One of the two, knowing Vardy. And I'm thinking, pass it, because this player was absolutely unmarked. He didn't, of course. And of course, he did the right thing in the end because he scored the goal. But what a turnaround. I still, and I was speaking a while ago to a mate, and I still can't explain what happened. What was the change?
I think there was a couple of things. I think Pearson hit on a team formation that worked. That he went basically. It was kind of a 4-4-2, but had the ability to be a 4-3-3 at the time. But it just works, and everybody seemed comfortable. We were a team who were limited in our ability, but we'd shown that we could play. I mean, it was the same season that we had that fantastic game against Man United that's constantly shown on late night on Sky Sports, the 5-3. So we had it in us. We just lost our way a little bit, and maybe a little bit of tinkering here and there. But I think, as I say, those back-to-back games just gave us that confidence that here was a shape that the team could believe in, and they got behind it and they just went on and it was, as they say, the great escape.
Yes, I still would argue the greatest of great escapes. To be honest, I don't think any team had been bottom for as long as we had. Forget the Christmas one, because people had West Brom had been bottom at Christmas, and they were the first ones, but nobody had been the bottom as long as we had and survived, and that was the thing. And I told you Brad would know it here. Nugent did an overhead kick in the box, and Huth headed it, and Dawson headed it into the roof of the net. So it was given to Huth. So thank you, Brad. We knew you'd come up. Now, as much as I would quickly want to move on, I feel like there may be a bit of a question.
Well, there's a couple of questions, and sadly, one of them has already been brought up during the course of the show. So, that one's gone.
Which probably means I still wouldn't get it.
No, it was going to be, which ex-Leicester player lined up in West Brom's defence that day? So, I presume
it was Horsfield. No.
I can only take your first answer, Chris.
A comment then from,
I can only... In the best quiz fashion, I can only take your first answer.
I never said final answer.
I believe was Jeff Horsfield.
No, I never said final answer. In fairness to me, I did say Jeff Horsfield because I was just reading a comment because Brad said here, and just to show that I'm not making it up, Brad said earlier, I thought you would have thrown out Jeff Horsfield as a foot in both camps, but Macaulay, and I've got him written down here with Enzo, Emperor Enzo, and Johnny Evans.
Yeah,
but no, I didn't. I can't now. I did say Horsfield first.
So the other couple of questions I've got for you here. Both managers won Manager of the Month awards this season. Nigel won in April. Who won it for West Brom in February that season?
I want to say, but I'm going to be wrong here.
Jeff Horsfield?
Oh God, who was their manager then? Again, I had a thing up with managers, and I haven't got it up now. There was when we were talking about what's he called? Their manager now, Corberan, of all the managers, and the one that stuck out, but I'm sure he wasn't manager then, was Slavan Bilic, but he wasn't manager then. It would be very easy for me just to click on another page and open it up. But that would also be cheating.
It would. We can all do that. So
yes, we can all do that, and I can't do that. So I have got to say, I can't remember.
It was Tony Pulis.
Was it? Yes, of course it was, because he came out. Was it after this game? I think, and stood in his press conference and said he wanted to see Leicester go on and. Oh no, that was the next season. He did that, obviously. Yeah, where he came out after a game next season and said, surely we all want Leicester to win the league. And I think that probably didn't go down well. But can I just say, in my own defence, Brad, he went for Tony Mowbray.
Oh, right. Okay. Well done, Brad.
That's why neither are very good at quizzes.
And the last question, in that season, which striker joined the club for a then club record fee?
Now, I think I know this one because we only spoke about him, I think, on the preview show as one that got away. I think after all this build-up, you're going to say, no, it wasn't him. But I'm going to go for Andrej Kramaric.
Yeah, it was indeed. We bought Ajoa at the start of the season.
Yes.
And but yeah, we bought Kramaric in January for a fee of 9 million. And definitely, I think one who got away.
I think so. I definitely think so. I can remember because I had a season ticket for that season. There were some long journeys home after go through that long losing patch. 4 hours on the motorway when you just lost the game.
And then you thought, I'm not doing that next season.
No, exactly. That and the fact that my son who I went with was off to university made me decide. But I remember him coming on sometimes, and I can remember when we were going through the bad patch. We never really got stuffed by anybody, but we didn't like just to have shots. We seemed to get the ball on the edge of the box and then just keep passing it sideways. Passing ball sideways. Who'd have thought about that? When Kramaric came on, all right, he didn't always sort of hit the target, but he seemed to be able to want to have a shot.
Yeah, I remember him. He was great at just dummying and cutting back, and then he would cut back again, and he would often sort of try and cut back 3 or 4 times while he got the ball at his feet. But his only thought was, can I get a shot off on goal? And obviously went off to Germany and Hoffenheim and had a few great seasons.
Yeah. Well, you've just can you see the comments? Because it says here, Scott is asking you, joined which club, Craig?
Yeah.
I think he was one that got away. But then I think, in fairness, any striker that's either come or gone has struggled because of Jamie Vardy.
I think so, and a manager's reluctance to play to their strengths. I would say Slimani. Yes. I really liked Slimani, and when you bring him onto a game, you've got to play to his strengths, and we didn't. The few times that we did,
Yeah.
he scored goals. And
Well, this was it. He scored mainly with his header.
Yeah, exactly.
With his header,
that
with
was his strength, you know.
Yeah, but we very rarely got crosses in.
Yeah.
I mean, he scored if it was in the Champions League.
And you can go back to, and I'm sure it was before that, but the one I remember most was Akinbaye, and I'll still stand by that he got slated. But for me, it was Peter Taylor. It wasn't Akinbaye. It was Peter Taylor who was at fault there.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. You know, people, fans say, "Why don't we buy this player? Why don't we buy that player?" And it's the same with England managers to a way. Why don't you pick this player? Why don't you pick that player? Well, he may be the biggest, best midfielder or defender, but he doesn't play in a role that fits into my system.
Yeah.
So why pick these players?
It doesn't make them bad players. You know,
No.
we've seen it. Vestergaard, fits Enzo's game plan perfectly.
Yeah.
But he didn't under Brendan.
Musisi was another one for me. He never got the chance and was played on the wing the few times that he did get on, and he wasn't a winger. And unfortunately, I can see Daka going that way.
Yeah, it'll be exactly the same, I think, with Daka. I think you can almost see it. He's going to go off to the African Cup of Nations, and he's absolutely going to smash it. Probably come back with a golden boot, and then get sold at a ridiculously low fee, and then smash it wherever else he goes.
More than likely. Craig, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
It's been a bit of a long one, but bits of the show went on longer than I thought they would. You're away next Thursday. You're not going to be with us, so I wish you fun in whatever you're doing. Hopefully, it's not a funeral now I've said that. But thank you very much for this as always. Neither of us are confident for the win, but look, this is Leicester. We never know. Thanks very much, Craig. All the best to you and your family. Take care, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, Chris. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye. There we go. So, thanks to Craig for coming on. I didn't realize. I saw, when Craig used to come on, I used to have the guy that used to be doing that with his beard, the wise old owl. I actually saw that on Dave, I think it was, or Five, one of the channels that was advertising their action films, because they got like Kill Bill 1, 2, and a few others, and it showed that clip of that guy doing that. And I can't remember what film it was from. I really can't. But look, thanks very much to Craig. Thank you very much for Brad's cousin from Birmingham, Chris, West Bromwich Albion fan. I really am worried. We have got Match Day Live. That will be coming up for you. Early start on Saturday morning, because it's a 12:30 kickoff. So we are going to be starting at 11:45. Brad's just looked at me and gone, "What? I'm not going to be up for that time." We don't know, but at least Luke should be in Australia. And thank you very much, Craig. Yeah, all the best with you. We'll get you on something else before then. Don't you worry. You know that. You got to earn your money. Did I say money? No, I didn't say money. No. It's not live. We'll cut it out. It's not live, this. But yeah, 11:45. We will be live on Saturday for the match day, starting with the pre-match, going through the team announcement and the watch along, and then doing the post-match reaction at the end. I need to go and buy a buzzer so that I can get ready for Brad's outburst if we lose again. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, I should say. Sorry, possibly 7. We haven't decided yet. 7 or 9, one of them. Subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell. Then whatever time we do it, you're not going to miss it. Thank you very much to everybody that's watched. Really do appreciate it. Thanks to Craig. Thanks to Chris from Albion Analysis. Albion Analysis. Should have put my other set in. Albion Analysis. Thank you very much for Chris for coming on. Great insight. All joking aside, absolutely fantastic insight. And I do have a soft spot for Albion, even if it's only because of their poor Boilerman. And thank you if you've been listening on your podcast. I really do appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow night for the Prediction League. Yeah, got to, Brad. Sorry, mate. It's not getting good, is it? Take care. I'll see you then. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.